Christine and Eugene are an elderly couple who live about an hour away from Ocean View, a tiny beach community in the middle of nowhere. They've watched the beach change over the years, and now in the autumn years of their lives, they're having a crisis. It's winter, and winter makes us grumpy, even, or maybe especially, in older age. It was Eugene's suggestion, why don't we get out of the house and improve our mood by going for a walk down the beach? Upon his proposal, a tiny fly landed next to Christine that neither saw. I hate the beach. I hate it. Every time we go, something bites me, said Christine. Either a mosquito or sand spurs, bugs, animals, critters in the sand. Well, you can't do anything about the bugs, said Eugene, as the fly buzzed away unnoticed. Just something always bites me, said Christine. But at the beach, you get the sunsets, said Eugene. I've just never been to the beach without being bit. The beach is about more than bugs, Christine. So with that, we now find a classic VW Beetle soon parked at Ocean View, and this modest couple strolling down the naked dunes with the waves lapping upon the shore, in the middle of a conversation as Christine laments a troubled marriage. Like that time we used to live here at Ocean View before you had to go to Jacksonville. I wanted to come with you, but you wouldn't let me. I cried so much that day. She sits upon a sand dune, alone and sad, with Eugene standing steadfast nearby. The kids were so little, and I wanted you to be near, she said as a mosquito landed upon her arm. Jacksonville was a dangerous place, Christine. It was no place for the kids. You just wanted to be away from me. I felt that my whole life, she said. Do you remember the day before I left? We came down here and we spent the entire day at the beach? He asked. The mosquito is just about to poke its way into Christine's arm when Eugene plops down beside her, scaring it away. Do you remember how we swam out past the breakers as the sun was going down? We saw 2 dolphins out past the pier, swimming together just in front of us. We'd never have seen those dolphins if I had not persuaded you to swim out that far. Do you remember that? I forgot about that, replied Christine. We would never have seen it if we had stayed upon the shore. And even though you cried, I brought you and the kids up to Jacksonville. Do you remember that? Yeah, but that was only for a weekend, said Christine. Let's walk towards the sugar shack, suggested Eugene. Sand spurs sit prickly and sharp upon the brush. Sand cuts as it blows in the wind. Their footprints pass poison jellyfish washed upon the shore. I was never expecting to be with a man who was away all the time. It made me very mistrusting, Christine confessed. Christine removes her flip-flops and sits back down upon a dune, looking back at the sea as she looks across their marriage. Like that time you were working in Westminster for a month and didn't have a phone. I was sure you found another woman. A sand crab crawls from its hole and inches towards Christine's exposed toe. But then I showed up at your doorstep with a bouquet of flowers for your birthday. Do you remember that? Asked Eugene. I forgot about that, said Christine. The sand crab opens its large claw and lowers it slowly towards her toe. I had 3 days leave, and it took me 70 hours to get to you and back. And just as the crab begins to clench its claws, Eugene plops down beside her, scaring it away. And the only other 2 hours I had, I spent with you for your birthday. I wanted you to be surprised. And the crab scurries away. Yeah, but that was for only 2 hours, said Christine. And she abruptly gets up, leaving Eugene alone, shivering from a gust of wind. The sun is setting as he catches up, and a small shanty town appears on the horizon. Let's make it to the sugar shack before the sun goes down, said Eugene. And there is a little broken old restaurant, out of business now for years, with a hand-painted sign and a heart drawn between the words, Sugar Shack. It's a Jamaican restaurant specialized in jerk chicken. I wonder what happened to it, ponders Eugene. Things get old, Eugene. They don't stay the way you remember it. But I thought maybe we could have a drink here, just like the good old days, said Eugene. Not all the old days were good, said Christine. You keep reminding me, he says, now turning from her and walking to the other side, in front of a boggy marsh. He picks up seashells and tosses them in frustration. Well, you had your experience, and I had mine, said Christine. Like the time I came to the sugar shack, and you were dancing with Darlene. He suddenly stops in his tracks, and we see something rippling below the water near their feet by the boggy marsh. A slow and ominous V-shape cuts creepily across the surface, torpedoing directly towards Christine. I had been home all day with the kids. They were in bed, and I came out to look for you. I knew you weren't fishing because your rod and reel were in the garage. I trusted you, Eugene. But lo and behold, there you were. I saw you, slow dancing with that girl. I forgot about that, said Eugene. You didn't see me, but I got a good look at the two of you. I loved you, but you were the source of all my problems. I'm sorry, Christine. I was confused. You were not happy with me. So I went out that night because I was lonely. I had forgotten all about her. We remember different things. The V-shaped point comes at them, beginning to emerge from the water, and we see the beady, lifeless, reptile eyes of an alligator. It's closing in on Christine, and neither seem to notice. Well, what do you remember? Shouts Christine. And with that, Eugene loses his temper and slings a seashell in her direction, but not at her. It just splashes behind her. And the alligator quickly submerges back in the water unnoticed. And the marsh is peaceful again. I remember the way you cried when you told me what you saw. And I remember the love I saw in the pain of your eyes. And that's why I sold the house that year and we moved out to Plainview to leave behind our mistakes so I could dedicate the rest of my life to you. I don't know why I took you back, Christine replied. Well, I haven't left your side since that day, said Eugene, and that was 30 years ago. And with that, they pass back by the sugar shack, a beaten up shell of what it once was. And Christine reaches her hand out, and Eugene obliges. And we see this silver-haired couple strolling down the beach alone, a lifetime behind them. Time has changed even this old beach, where once was naked and barren. This township has grown, and this walking time capsule continues their way to the VW Beetle in the parking lot. But the Beetle doesn't start when Eugene pulls the ignition. He comforts his wife and sets out under the hood to see what is the matter. And while he's there, a mosquito lands upon her arm and it poises, searching for a place to dig in. But the hood suddenly slams shut and the mosquito must fly away. What was wrong? Asked Christine as he returns. Nothing, said Eugene. Nothing? Yeah, nothing's wrong. Sometimes you just need to do some maintenance. And the car starts up and the Beetle pulls away. Frogs croak and crickets chirp outside their quaint little home. A light from the window beckons us inside that night. As Christine readies herself for bed, Eugene is already under the sheets. "I don't know why you irritate me so much," said Christine. "I don't know either. I only want to see you smile. I don't know why you irritate me, but you do," she said again, as they snuggle together by the light of the nightstand. "You know what?" Christine asks. "What?" said Eugene. "I just realized for the first time in my life I made it through a whole day at the beach, and nothing ever bit me. Not a bug, a crab, or a sand critter." And she reaches up, smiling and relieved at her day at the beach, as she is about to turn out the lamp. And Eugene is lowering his mouth around the ball of her shoulder, poised to take a bite. Not a single thing bit me. And just as she switches off the light, he chomps down on her shoulder and she screams, "Eugene!" And he turns and says to her, "And as long as I am here, nothing else ever will."